Hey guys, I'm Bjergsen, the mid laner from Team Solo Mid, and this is my LoL class Basic Champions Guide to Cassiopeia. For runes on Cassiopeia, I use a very standard AP page. The HP scaling really helps a close range mage like Cassio survive late in the game. AP helps for her strong early game, and AP scaling also helps with the scaling damage. Another thing you can run is flat MR blues if you're against a strong lane bully like LeBlanc or Syndra, since Cassio has a lot more sustained damage and she can win longer trades, so sometimes just living that extra couple of seconds can really make the difference in the 1v1. For Cassiopeia's masteries, you just want to be maximizing cooldown reduction and AP. As much AP as you can, since Cassio is all about doing damage, he's all about throwing out Twin Fangs and continuously doing damage. The mana regen from utility really helps with the early game since you're going to be spamming a lot and you're going to be looking for a lot of aggressive trades. For the skill order, I always go Q level 1. It's just the best spell for pushing the lane, even just using the poison. Twin Fangs doesn't really do too much without any of the poison, so I say go Q level 1, go Twin Fangs at level 2. You can definitely do some heavy trades. Cassio is an insane level 2 champion. If you get the opportunity, you can easily go for a kill. At level 3, if you're looking more to push the wave, I'd recommend going for the W. But if you're looking for even more trades or potentially another all-in, I'd recommend going for the 3rd level of Twin Fangs. For the overall skill order, I max E, then Q, then W, and leveling alt whenever I can. For me personally, I think there are 3 options for Cassio to run summoner spells. First is Barrier, second is Ignite, and last is Exhaust. Exhaust is the most situational one and is mostly used against champions that really heavily duel. It's champions like Yasuo, Zed, and they can really be effective against those. Ignite is more of like the common summoner spell. If you don't really know what to run, I recommend just going Ignite. It increases your kill potential a lot, especially the ult flash. You can get a lot of all in and surprise damage, and the dot synergizes with pretty much all the other poisons that you have. Barrier is just because Cassio is an immobile champion, and against some of the burst mages like Syndra, LeBlanc, those kind of champions, you just need that little bit of extra health from the shield, and it can really save you. There are a lot of different ways to build Cassiopeia. I think the main early game builds are either going Tear of the Goddess into Rylai's or just going straight for Rod of Ages. The Tear of the Goddess build is worse early on because the Tear just only gives mana and doesn't really give you anything for the laning phase. But as soon as you get the Rylai's, it gets a huge power spike, and the slow that it brings just lets you kite people forever. And I think it's sort of the more greedy build, but when you can pull it off, it's better than the Rod of Ages build. The Rod of Ages is a lot safer early. The Catalyst gives you sustain in lane. It's really hard to push Cassio out of lane because her sustain or her passive gives sustain from the Twin Fangs. So either go one of those item builds in the beginning, then you can either branch out to more offensive items like Void Staff and Zonius, or you can do more defensive. You can go for items like Abyssal, Zonius. You can even go items like Frozen Heart, Randuin's. Cassio is a very versatile champion. You can build tank or AP. It really depends on personal preference and what you want to do that game. I think Cassiopeia is pretty good in solo queue because generally where she gets punished is her immobility, and it doesn't get punished nearly as hard in solo queue, especially in team fights. That is also the only reason I'm not saying she's amazing and the #1 solo queue champion is because she can get punished due to her immobility, especially in the early game. Heavy gankers like Jarvan, Lee Sin can really get on you and set up a lot of ganks. And if you get that far behind, it's really hard to come back. But if you get to play out the laning phase as Cassio, if you get to stack up your passive, if you get to get those major items right, Rylai's and Rod of Ages, she can really be super, super strong and win team fights single-handedly. Cassio is one of those champions that it's really strange to lane with, as in she pretty much wins every single 1v1 matchup. It's super, super easy to win it, but there is always that constant jungle pressure because you are an immobile champion. You could easily get ganked, and no matter how much you can 1v1, you can't always 1v2. So you really have to make sure you're playing aggressive at the right time. Sometimes it's just better to push up the waves. The Twin Fang is free if you get the last hit, so you can easily push up with poisons and Twin Fangs, and you can put wards out, you can look to roam, you can do a lot of things. Just make sure you're not overextending and setting yourself up for ganks. For Cassio's team fighting, she plays a lot like an AD carry. People say AD carries just need to be doing as much damage in a team fight as they can to pretty much any target. It's the same for Cassiopeia. You just want to damage anyone you can, anywhere. If you're standing right next to a tank, damage the tank. You can spam like 1,000 Twin Fangs on him, and eventually you'll kill him. The sustained damage output from Cassiopeia is insane as long as you can damage someone. Her range is really limited, and it's hard to get onto APs and AD unless you can get your ult off. So I'd recommend just either getting the initiate with your ult or holding the ult during a team fight and just hitting whoever you can. One thing you have to know when playing Cassio is to be able to do the ult flash. When you ult flash, it pretty much sets the ult off instantly, and you can easily get the stun and burst someone. It's pretty much your main way of killing people in lane, since Cassio is a kind of low range mage and hard to get kills without your ult. But getting the ult flash, you can surprise someone, get the stun, and just burst them down. It's also a great way to engaging team fights and setting up roams around the map. On Cassio, when you get 100 stacks of your passive, which is generally around your first or second base in lane, your Twin Fang starts to heal. The Twin Fang also replenishes the mana as well as gives you 3% of your maximum mana when you get a last hit. So if you put a poison like your Miasma, the W, on the backline and use 1 to 2 Twin Fangs on all the creeps, you're going to stay around the same mana, and you're also going to sustain a lot. So really keep in mind that you can use your Twin Fang with poison on creeps to sustain in lane, and it really helps you out because Cassio is vulnerable to poke. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. You can check out my other guides on lowclass.com, and if you have any questions, tweet me at Bjergsen on Twitter.